Welcome to this Techies webinar. I'm Sujit John, and I have with me my colleague Shilpa Fadnis. The two of us will moderate the discussion. We hope you and your families are staying safe and doing well. Our discussion today is on how prepared are employees and organizations for hybrid work. We are holding this in association with Jabra, the Danish brand that specializes in audio and video systems. In March last year, all of us suddenly had to work from home. Surprisingly, many organizations adapted fairly quickly to that. It reached a stage where many companies told us that they are as productive or more productive remotely than they were in office. But over time, many also felt the need for physical meetings. There was also work from home fatigue. Now, as the pandemic eases, almost everyone is thinking of a hybrid model where some will be in office and some outside, including their homes. What kind of processes and technologies would be needed to make this work well? To discuss that, we have with us three seasoned professionals. We have with us Peter Jayaseelan. Peter is VP and Managing Director for South Asia in Jabra. He's also the head of Asia Pacific for the Public Sector Business Unit in Jabra. Peter has over 30 years of experience in managing profit and loss units, strategy, people, sales, operations, turnarounds, acquisitions, and building new businesses. He has global experience, having worked in India, Oman, Australia, and Singapore. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Sujit, for the kind words.
We have with us Blessing Joseph. Blessing has been passionate about multimedia and communication since his college days. Today, as the Managing Director of Vega India, he's steering the company's growth in audiovisual and unified communications across multiple geographies globally. Prior to this, Blessing worked at Avaya Global and Siemens. Welcome, Blessing.
Thank you, Shilpa. Pleasure to be a part of this conversation today. I wish and hope that this will be of great insight and value to our audiences and customers who are participating in this event. Thank you.
Sure.
And we have with us Alysha Sidhartha. Alysha has been on the Times Techies webinar previously. Welcome again, Alysha. Alysha is a partner account manager for Teams Rooms at Microsoft India. She is responsible for enabling the partner community in India to drive hybrid workplace and Microsoft Teams Rooms. Prior to Microsoft, Alysha worked with Poly, Cisco, AGN Networks. Welcome, Alysha.
Hey, thank you, and happy to be here once again.
Those of you who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Sujit and I will put them to Peter, Blessing, and Alysha. Coming to you, Peter, first, how has the journey for organizations and employees been in the last 18 to 20 months from office to work from home to hybrid?
Hey, thank you. Welcome all to the session, and thank you, Times Techies, for organizing this. We're really looking forward to a 1 hour of enriching session. As Sujit said, please stay safe. It's important. Pandemic is over and not over, yeah, with the Omicron coming up. So coming back to your question, let's look at it from a Jabra perspective. If I draw you to about 6 years back, Jabra did a customer survey, and we got a certain insight, which really meant that we figured that work is not where you go to, it's not a physical location, and work is what you do. So that's how we brought about this concept of new ways of working, and we came up with a whole range of solutions, audio solutions, which kind of cater to this concept of work not being tied up to a desk, but that allows you freedom to go. So which essentially means that work from home did exist, but it existed in pockets. There were many organizations which had written work from home policies one had to ask for and apply for. And it happened, including companies like Jabra allowed it. The only difference that we had was we just didn't create technology for the sake of technology. We also believed that one size doesn't fit all. A headset doesn't mean it's the same headset for everybody. We realized that there are people who work 8 hours sitting on a desk. They really don't need to move, but there could be people who need to walk around. We call them as corridor warriors, including a person who's attending a reception needs to walk around. We also had people like ourselves who are sales and pre-sales who are on the field. So we had to be at work. We had to then be out. We were taking calls, both calls on the mobile or also a Teams call, or those days a Skype call. So you needed to have that ability to do that. Or also you had these small meetings that we had in huddle rooms, which required a device where everybody can speak and not just have a headset. So we called these use cases as personas, and we built devices which kind of catered to these personas. So work from home was there, and it was at a nascent stage. For instance, a person like me, for the last 10, 12 years, I'd worked majority of my time at home and hotels and all kinds of places, right? Then what happened in 2019 end, globally, COVID hit, and more from an India perspective, early part of 2020. So we were all forced to get back. For me, it is the first time, right? We've had these bunds and hartals where we were sitting at home once in a while. But here is a case where the entire country was shut and asked to go and work. But you just can't stop working. But that is what I'm proud of, this Indian industry, where we figured out what to do. It was almost as if nothing happened and people started working from home. The IT enablers, the CEO, the CTO organizations quickly reacted to the situation and made sure that work did not suffer on a long-term basis. And the workers, the employees also put up through any difficulty that may face, and they started working from home, right? So but what happened is, we, as I said, we reacted to it, right? We had to react to it. So there are challenges that are associated with it. For instance, working from home, you could have a doorbell going, you could have your dog barking, you could have a cooker whistle going up, or you could have, a child crying. All these, have different pitch and different decibels where a regular, a product may not be helping, right? So there are challenges, but we lived with it, right? And that's how we had to relook at the technology. While we adapted to it, the situation, but there was a reason to relook also. So what is happening now? While the COVID, we went through this last 18, 20 months, and now we are in a situation where organizations are saying, hey, listen, vaccination, people are vaccinated, things in control, let's slowly get back to office. Now, I'm not sure, and I'm possibly pretty sure that we're not going to be in 100% back to office mode. There is going to be mix and match. So there will be some working from office, some working from outside, right? I'm also beginning to see the big four consulting, all kinds of large organizations allowing their employees to work from literally anywhere. I forget the name. One organization said you could go to another country to work, right? That is brilliant, for 6 weeks or something like that, which is brilliant. This is the time people are very confident that their organization, the technology and process will let them do it, and employees are happy going and doing that, right? So we are beginning to see the shift, and this shift, as we call it, as the hybrid working mode, right? So from being all in office to work from home to a hybrid mode is where we are working. So like we did 6 years back a poll, we recently conducted a poll along with Harris. We did a global survey of knowledge workers, and it's very interesting to see what they thought of, right? So 68% of the knowledge workers feel that their ideal work week includes a hybrid mode, not just work from home and not office. So 68% of knowledge workers are saying that. And 9 out of 10 believe that in future hybrid work will be the future, right? But one thing that we're beginning to also hear is, not all organizations, or even most organizations, are not really communicating their vision on hybrid system. It is very important. I'll tell you why that is important. But there is another very tricky and interesting thing for managers who are listening to this, right? 48% of the employees are ready to consider change of job, which is offering hybrid system. I'm beginning to see many job postings says hybrid. I mean, not hybrid, they work from home allowed or work from anywhere allowed. We wouldn't have seen this 20 months or 2 years back. So 48% employees have considered change of job if the organization does not allow hybrid working, right? And 77% of people prefer to work in a company that allows hybrid working. And interestingly, they believe that 81% of the companies, 81% of the people believe that in future, to be competitive, you need to allow hybrid. It is not just about ease, it is about productivity also, right? And they are also, and then interestingly, 59% say that they are willing to sacrifice a bit on salary and benefits for being given an opportunity to work from hybrid. So this is very, very interesting. And you see that organization needs to prepare for hybrid if they are not, right? So as I said before, when the COVID hit us, we had no choice. We reacted, we did what we did. But now is an opportunity for the tech world to give a measured response to this. So when you're doing hybrid, it is more planned as opposed to being reactive, right? So we can give a measured response. And it is important that this is the time we need to ensure that the right tools and technologies and processes are deployed. I'm a strong a believer of Goldratt's theory of constraint, which in a sense it says, right, a chain is no stronger than the weakest link. From a Jabra perspective, when people deploy technology, spend a lot of time, they tend to spend a lot of time on the bigger things, right, which they need to, rightfully, like a platform and stuff like that. We believe that it is also important to take care of the last 3 feet, because if that is the weakest link, the whole experience will go for a toss. So please ensure that every part of the solution set is taken care of, however small or big it is, right? And also organizations, the same poll talks about employees saying that 66% of the employees are saying their organization are still not prepared. Just to deviate away from technology itself, I read an article by a person called Linda Grattan. I would strongly recommend anybody considering hybrid working. It's called as How to Do Hybrid, right? She's a professor in London School of Business, and this is a Harvard Business Review article, right? Which clearly talks about when you design a hybrid working environment, you will have to consider the individual or employee's concerns as much as you consider institutional ones. Otherwise, this is bound to fail. Yeah. So, and it's important to communicate. I'll tell you why. Because our employees are now saying that work from home is almost now given, right? They are saying that we want autonomy and flexibility, right? 61%. This is another poll that we conducted internally, which talks about 61% of people say management should allow us to decide whether we want to come into the office or work from home, right? It is not about you telling me when I should work from home, right? They're saying, give me that autonomy. I want to manage my own schedule, right? And but what is the underlying red flag is that 52% also feel that they want to work from home, but they're worried that their careers will be impacted, and they will, if there's somebody in a team who's working in the office and if I'm working from home, am I going to be impacted? Sometimes organization misses out on that. So as much as you talk about space, as much as you talk about designing space, designing technology, it is important to decide 2 more things, right? One is the processes. We don't want an outdated process which was made for a work from office to be used in a hybrid environment, right? And if it is a poor process, you don't want to continue that in this mode. Here's a chance to change it. And similarly, there is also something called inclusivity and fairness. That's what it affects, right? It should be the technology and the policy should be inclusive. So whether you're working from home or office or in a hybrid mode, it doesn't matter. You're treated in fairness and it is an inclusive culture. So these are my initial thoughts. I'm happy to hear others talk about it, and we can continue this.
Very interesting. No, absolutely. I'm also totally, personally, I'm hoping Times of India will allow hybrid work. I stay some 16, 17 kilometers from the office and easily 1.5 hours commute one way every day. I was very happy when, the lockdown happened. But now I also realize, physical meetings, they invariably turn out to be better in several ways than the online ones. So you do feel like stepping out, meeting people. So I would love maybe 2 days in office or 3 days in office, something like that is what I'm really looking forward. But that's an interesting point you made, Peter, about whether your manager, your company values a person who sits in office. That's an important thing. That's why processes need to change to take care of all of this. Yeah, exactly. Blessing, I want to ask you, now that people are beginning to come back to office, so what infrastructural changes are needed in office spaces to be conducive to hybrid working?
All right, thank you, Jill. So my thoughts on hybrid workplace, infrastructural changes, it must involve 3 key factors: people, space, and technology. While infra changes differ from organization to organization, basis the business segments they are into and the existing setups they probably have implemented or they carry on. In common, the infra changes needed will be basically into their real estate standards, IT network security, their readiness to go on cloud, the cloud adoption for the hybrid model. And that should also be focused, basis the experience with our customers, we've seen, it is focused on long-term and short-term workplace model goals. For example, an interim solution, what an organization has adopted during the pandemic might be just on a short-term basis. But having said that, they might want the long-term to be on their main core enterprise platform, or to support any new strategies or technology roadmaps that they have defined for their organization. Or even it could be a combination of bring your own device or ADW model, and a less fixed and visible huddle space model. And also it might involve a large venue or a multipurpose hybrid model. So specifically for the large enterprises, this will definitely need an in-house or a system integration expertise to first of all study and understand their business goals, the real estate, the infrastructure, currently what they've got, their existing technology architecture, to design, help them implement a future-proof hybrid, working space model. The reason why we are again insisting on the real estate changes, apart from the network, IT security, and cloud readiness, is also for the hybrid model to accommodate the connected spaces, which are within their infrastructure, right? It could be open huddle space, or it could be phone booths, what the customers, call it as now, in the new normal and stuff like that. So these are my views about the infrastructure changes that are required, Sujit.
Okay, we'll come back to you to ask the kind of changes that you are making in some of the offices later. But Shilpa?
Yeah, Alysha, coming to you, while hybrid work promises to bring the social aspects of working, how do you avoid the situation where some of the peers don't get to, interact in person due to rotation policies?
Yeah, so I would like to, interesting facts which Peter shared with us, right? And I just want to add one interesting fact that I came across, and this is from the Microsoft Work Index report. It said that 73% of employees want flexible work options, right? We all want to work from home, like Sujit said, but it is 67% of those employees who want, in-person collaboration experience, right? Which is a bit of a paradox, because while you want to work from remote, you want to have all those features and capabilities that people, coming to office have. And I think that's the biggest shift, that we're going to experience, especially in our generation, in hybrid work, right? And like both Peter and Blessing mentioned, every organization will require a new operating model spanning people, places, and processes, right? And it's always going to be hybrid, right? With the onset of Omicron, I don't see 100% of the workforce going back to office at any given time. And but the expectations of people have changed, right? All of us have got so used to working on our laptops, single click to join meetings, seeing everyone on equal space on our screens, that when they go back to office, they expect the same level of experience. They still expect to have that equality. They still expect to have that ease of use. They still expect to have all those features that we've got used to, right? Of these wonderful applications that we're collaborating on, right? And I think that is leading to a new set of challenges, right? For organizations to provide those collaboration tools so that their employees work more effectively, can continue to collaborate and drive productivity across. And I think the most important fact is creating that equitable, inclusive experience, which starts from designing for people not in the room, but outside the room, right? Providing that high quality of audio video experience to ensure that everyone can be seen, everyone can be heard, and participate as if they were in person. And to continue to have that ability to, really understand those reactions, integrate with social cues. We're so used to emojis, we're so used to clapping, sharing hearts, all those reactions, right? So when we go back to office, we still want to see all of that, just to understand how we're feeling, just to understand the reactions of our co-workers. I mean, when we share a presentation and we see all those claps and all those hearts going up, it kind of gives us that reassurance, and it kind of gives us that attention. And now going back to office, we definitely want to continue to have that. And I think features, especially that Microsoft is developing, like fluid components, which have meeting recap features, meeting agendas, integration with Outlook, OneNote, whiteboard streaming, all of that just helps us, collaborate more effectively wherever we are, whether we are at home and whether we are at office. So, but I think apart from having all this technological capability, both at home and bringing that experience to rooms when we return to office, I think it's also a little bit of a cultural change that we really need to embrace, right? We need to, while we're all excited to go back and meet few of our co-workers in the conference room, we must not forget the fact that we have remote participants as well on the call, right? And make that conscious effort to include them in the conversation. Sometimes they're just shy, or because they're remote, it's hard for them to jump into a conversation and contribute. And while we need to drive this as co-workers culturally, I think Microsoft is also doing a lot in terms of features like raise hand, right? I think it's an amazing feature which kind of gives you that equal participation even though you're remote, and gives you that voice to kind of represent yourself. So I would say that apart from technology, I think social aspects are also equally important. And generally, I think overall, as part of our teams, as part of leaders, we should also drive this as a social responsibility. Have check-ins with people who are remote, who were not able to meet, to just understand how they are. Like at Microsoft, we have Monday morning check-ins where we don't do anything. We just catch up on what we did on the weekend, just to get a sense and feel of how we're doing and how we're feeling as a team, which is really helping drive that productivity and that team spirit within the organization.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. You said it, equitable, inclusive experiences. I think that's absolutely key. Alysha already spoke about some parts of the technology involved here. Peter, I want to get you in here. Technologies. How can we use technology in this hybrid world?
Yeah. Alysha, yeah, a lot of interesting points, and she did speak about inclusivity, which is very clear. So I'll just draw back to pain points, and then we'll talk about how the technology can address, right? So obviously there is things related to the vision, the policy of inclusivity, ensuring it is equal opportunity. It does not matter whether you're in the office, outside the office, or a combination, you need to be given equal opportunity. Similarly, I also spoke about processes. No point continuing on a process which is defective. This is time to change. Otherwise, it will be broken. From a technology perspective, there are multiple pain points that one experiences. One is bandwidth. We always fight for bandwidth, especially at home. There are people with a couple of kids, the spouse working, and we are working, and we fight for bandwidth. We fight for space. We are in the kids' bedroom. All kinds of things happen. So space is an issue. Bandwidth is an issue. I'm saying technology needs to address all these, right? And then movement. You need to be able to see at office. You could be a desk-bound worker, but at home you may have to go and get to the door, or there could be an emergency that you need to while continuing to be on the call. So that flexibility of the move is an issue. Compatibility is very, very important. We need to be compatible with the platforms and other devices that you are connected. As people don't work as individuals, technology also just doesn't work as individual. I could have the best of technology, but if it is not compatible with the rest, it is a problem, right? And similarly, earlier, I don't think I had more than 2 to 3, max 4 hours of call in a day, right? Because you're out, right? You're commuting, and I used to hate commuting, but now I'm really hoping, right, it gave you time to do that. But it gave us those breaks and spaces. Today, this is almost glued on. I wish maybe next time we could have it embedded in your eardrum, I guess, right? That may be the future technology. So what is happening is that you need devices which are comfortable to wear, right? And devices that are durable in nature, devices that can take care of the different kinds of noises that we are talking about, right? And also devices which are effective. Please remember, out of the 5 senses, right, one of the senses is hearing. And hearing is very, very important. Hearing starts even when you're in a mother's womb, and they say even if you're in the deathbed and in coma, you can still hear while other senses may go off. So it's very, very important to take care of the hearing as a sense. Normally people are concerned about vision, which is equally important, which is more relatable, and you can quickly know if you're not able to see properly. But sometimes when you don't hear, it takes a long time, right? I always give an example from mother. when we figured she had almost lost 50% of her hearing, but she was able to communicate. She learned how to do lips, look at the lips. Nobody taught her, humans are very adaptable, and that's what happened. So it's very, very important to take care of the ear. So, and especially with kids peering into sometimes just a mobile phone to do their classes and using very poor quality headsets, it can affect them in the long term. So I would also include safety as one of the concern. Now, this is to do with the individual user, right? And when you look at an IT admin, it was very difficult even to manage when people are sitting in one office or multiple offices. Today, it's so many more offices, right? Thousands, meaning individual workspaces across the country and across the world. So manageability is very important. There will be firmware change, there will be upgrades, there will be configuration, inventory. We don't know how much of headsets is existing where. Troubleshooting, all these are typical worry points from a technology perspective for the IT administrators, right? And again, like we were talking earlier before the call, you need to know the adoption. You're deploying, big dollars, deploying these technologies costing big dollars, right? Whether it is effective or not. So telemetry helps. The data that comes out will tell you usage patterns, and then you can coach and motivate people to use it better, right? And similarly, from a space or facility perspective, today we're talking about open offices, right? So which you also need then places we call it as concentration zones where people can have some quiet time to discuss. There'll be certain things that you do where you need to be quiet, right? And then similarly, you may need to do small team meetings, so you may need some huddle rooms, right? So these are typical challenges faced by people, by the organization, which is IT and facilities, right? So as Jabra, what we did was 6 years back when we developed a set of products, we came out with what is called as the Evolve 2 series, which is essentially fit for purpose for hybrid mode of working. So these, like the one that I'm wearing, for instance, are highly durable, highly comfortable. You can wear it for 8-10 hours and you really don't know it. It becomes a part of your personal furniture.
Yeah,
that's in,
really?
right?
Okay.
Yeah. You can send me the order and I can send you one. Sorry. All right. And these are also, then like for instance, this is a team certified device, right? So I just don't need to worry. One touch of a button and I'm in there, right? Normally, you have at least 10 screens open and suddenly meeting time comes and you're literally figuring out what your meeting is all about and looking for this. Gives you a glow when there's a Teams meeting ready and you just click and you go there and you click and you
The headset
join
gives
it.
a glow.
Yes, there is a light that you can see, which will glow in a different color. So you know there is a Teams meeting ready, and then you just sit and you join, right? So that is something. So that's very important from a technology perspective to get a quick start in, right? And from an administrative perspective, these devices are all manageable. So you can literally say where these headsets are, who's using it, what firmware it is, does it need upgrade? It gives you telemetry data on who's using, who's not using, and it's very, very effective, right? So that's from an audio perspective. That's how technology helps in these challenges. Similarly, if you look at a video, just given an example, any video, as a part of the video solution, there is a video camera, and there is something called as a field of view. Any optical lens will give you a V-shaped field of view, right? And typically, in an open office environment, we don't build too many large meeting rooms now. Big boardrooms are there, but not as many. Now, a lot of these small 2 packs, 3 packs, 4 packs rooms are built, right? And these are small little, 6x6, 10x10 kind of a room where you have a monitor, you have a video equipment, and you have the tables abutting the wall. And typically, because of this field of view, anywhere between 25 to 30% of the room space is gone, right? And typically when the video is on, everybody goes to the end and huddles. Maybe that's why it's called as a huddle room. Yeah, I don't know, to be seen. So it's like, you're doing, and today in a COVID situation, you don't even want to be doing that, right? So that's where Jabra, for instance, has a 180 degrees field of view. So it will give you a complete panoramic view. You could literally be sitting next to the display and the camera and you will be covered. So it's a classic one. And similarly, lighting is a problem, right? If you have poor lighting, video is bad. Blessing is a master of it. He can tell you more details on that. So this kind of, these devices kind of understands your lighting, kind of helps automatically adjust to it. And again, people talk about video conferencing, and remember what is innate in a video conferencing is audio conferencing too. A poor audio in a video conferencing means it's a failure and or a poor user experience. So giving that, and we are anyway playing in that audio field for a long time. So besides the manageability and all that. So these are a couple of things. For instance, we also have something called as a people count. Like for instance, you could define that in a huddle room of this size, you can have only 5 people or only 3 people. When a 4th person comes in, the audio, the conferencing can be interrupted and told, hey, listen, you're you're exceeding the limits that are set for this room, right? So that's something that you could do. We also have something called as a whiteboard. Typically, we are so used to scribbling on the wall. Now in a video conferencing, where do you scribble? Right? Or you have to buy some, digital boards and scribbling pads and stuff like that. So here we have a built-in functionality to take care of this requirement to scribble, right? So even in this 180 degrees in an education segment, poor teacher, I can't imagine my teacher sitting in her chair and teaching us, right? They always moved and wrote, and today they are confined to a chair. So the learning and teaching experience goes for a toss. With a 180 degrees field of view, you could walk up and down in your room and you could scribble on a makeshift board at home, and you could still be seen and learn, and you can try and bring that better immersive teaching and learning experience there. So these are some of the technologies that we deploy, which helps and takes care of the hybrid working environment. I'm sure Alysha and Blessing can add their views too.
Yeah, Blessing, I wanted to bring you in here. How important will it be for the choice of devices, especially in a hybrid world? Why is it important to have specialized devices for work instead of the regular ones?
Thank you. So this is a very important and interesting question. So as an system integrator, when we propose a hybrid system for a hybrid workspace, we always have recommended our customers, clients to go for an agnostic system approach, an agnostic platform, and consult them mainly to adopt a bring your own device model. It provides the employees and the users the ability to use their own mobility devices. They are also interoperable. They can connect to any third-party systems, any other means of communications, which we call it as unified way of reaching out to people and stuff like that. So when they work from home, it becomes for an employee, it's as simple as plugging an USB cable into the system. And when in office, they still can use a state-of-the-art microphone or a speaker or an interactive collaboration tool with a lot of video, audio, interactive activities and stuff like that. Very importantly, organizations also should be sensitive about, maintaining some standards, the standardization of equipments when, they build their hybrid journey. Certification of products, very important. As Peter rightly said, Teams, Microsoft Teams have certified certain products to be used for different type of activities in a hybrid environment and stuff like that. And those being supported by the enterprise hardware and software platform is also equally important. Many companies still think that a VC system is just a PC connected to a display, a microphone, or a speaker. While it may be true in some sense, but having a high quality system that works seamlessly is not as straightforward as as it sounds. Because as Peter rightly said, in the past, if you look at a conference room or a conferencing facility, when it gets connected through a video system, you get to see some, 10 people, 20 people, 25 people, and you will have to literally struggle to, find out who's talking, who's presenting, and stuff like that. But now we are talking about video framing, video capturing, right? So, the videos can be framed as in how the meeting presenter wants it to be, or as in how they interact during the meeting. The auto framing is automated in the software system. And specifically when setting up multi-purpose venue, that require a lot of thoughts about how technology is being adopted for that particular space. Specifically, Peter talked about the audio, right? So today we are talking about spatial audio. So, you just implement a system and you draw, the size of the room or draw the, capturing requirement of audio. So for example, if you are, sitting in a workstation area and there are about 20 people sitting across adjacent to you, you can actually define how much space the audio will have to be covered and how much space the video will have to be covered and stuff like that. So these are certain augmented realities and, the AIs that, has come into the technology stuffs of the new hybrid solution. And primarily, this is when you need an integration partners like us, and you guys closely work with partners like Jabra and Microsoft to make sure the choice of devices are seamless, consistent in functionality, and thus providing you seamless end user experience as well, which is very important, in a hybrid concept when people are working from home. We are talking about just connecting to a laptop, connecting with different people on video, interacting. Peter talked about whiteboarding, all those. But when you turn back to the office, it is equally important to have the same experience, same simplicity of usage and stuff like that. So these are my views on the choice of devices. Yes, indeed, choice of devices are very important. And specifically, when we're talking about hybrid, solutions, when we propose, devices for the different standards, different types of rooms, categories of conferencing requirement, it also should be future ready. So today we are also talking about the VC system being capable, the hybrid workspace being capable of occupancy and utilization sensing to measure space efficiency, data analytics to an extent used to support their decision making, how many video conferences are being used. In the morning today, I was, having a call with a financial customer who spoke about, like 30 million hours are being used for, video conference facility for the entire organization, from a time-to-time perspective. So there are, different, equipments and different software tools that are available to measure those, and thus, making it productive for the end users and the organization as a hybrid journey for them. So these are my views, Sujit and Shilpa.
Are Indian companies taking this seriously? People have started implementing these systems?
The customers were very proactive, who were the global conglomerates, the enterprise customers. But having said that, yes, we are seeing traction with the local domestic customers, the government sectors, the education sector showing keen importance in getting into evaluating these futures facilities into their hybrid journey. We've witnessed organizations, generally have been becoming more proactive than before. I said, many have expedited their hybrid journey on the property and technology in over 18 months, which normally used to be like a 5 to 6 years of a migration plan. And again, finally, change is naturally disruptive. But the key is, we have seen the organizations today are recognizing the disruption, embracing to sculpt the shift gradually, as Alysha said, culture, right? Because sculpting this, shift gradually into the culture, employee culture, employer culture is very important, and bringing order to what otherwise, maybe a chaos. Importantly, in the hybrid journey, companies needs to trust people and technology. We have seen organizations lacking trust, definitely are falling behind the curve. As Peter rightly spoke about, 68% of employees, wanting to have a work from home. And he also talked about the statistics of employees' productivity during remote working or work from home. He also talked about 48% hybrid, job change requirement from the employees, which is very good stats to understand, the need for speed into this hybrid journey. Investing into people to influence this change in technology in building a trusted business and sustainable future are definitely going to be the only key success factors in the new way of normal working. This is my view.
Okay. Alysha, I want to bring you in here. Teams, all of us are very familiar with Teams now over the last 1.5 years. Times of India is entirely on Teams. But I want to ask you, what new features, collaboration tools like Teams and devices have you brought in, keeping in mind that it's going to be a hybrid world now? You mentioned some of these earlier, but if you can elaborate some.
No, absolutely. I think, like Blessing mentioned, right, there is like a major shift across organizations to cloud, right, in the last 1.5 years. And I think everyone that we're talking to has made this transition. And I think the reason why they've made it is because organizations need that platform, which is fluid, dynamic, and cloud powered, right? And at Microsoft, we are really focused on delivering that equitable experience regardless of where the person is. You'll be surprised to know that Microsoft developed 300 plus new features on Teams in the past 1 year alone, reciprocating to these feature requests of 250 million users on Teams, right? And it's been a learning journey, right, for all of us. So lot of it has been learned from users. A lot of the feedback that we've got and worked on is from the users and the customers who have adopted to Teams. And I think testimony of 250 million users on Teams itself is, talks about this massive migration to cloud across the world. So now more than ever, people need collaboration and experiences that put everyone on equal footing, whether they join meetings from home or conference room or even on the go, right, which we were talking about. And today when we join a meeting, like all of us have, we have equal presence in our respective boxes, right, when we're on screen. However, when we go back to office, we're going to see a change because within a conference room or a meeting room, maybe 3 or 4 people within the conference room will share that single box, right, which kind of compromises their experience and inclusivity. And therefore, learning from this, Microsoft is working on new layouts that enable the in-room participants to be represented locally. So every in-room participant will have their own box on screen, and we're working with partners like Jabra, like we've talked about their smart cameras to kind of help us bring about these feature requests to the customers. And
so you
also,
mean people may be sitting together in one room, looking at one screen, but each person's face will be there individually or something, is it?
Absolutely. So, and also for the far end users, you will have the in-room participants framed into a single box. So it's very clear that which participants are within the conference room and which participants are remote. But I think this is a really cool feature that is coming out because we all, it's like real estate space, right? We've all got so used to our real estate space on screen that, we don't want to compromise when we go back. Otherwise, for the far end participant, it's so difficult to recognize who's sitting in the room. And of course, to give people in the room a greater sense of connection to the remote participants, what we're doing is introducing new content layouts, which we call the front row. So visually, this new layout moves the video gallery that we can see to the bottom of the screen so that the room participants can see the remote colleagues face to face. Across a horizontal plane. So this is similar to what we see in in-room participation when we're sitting across the table. So that across the table experience is what we're trying to get from a front row layout. Also, there are a lot of features like I spoke about fluid components, right? Things like we can collaborate before the meeting simultaneously on the agenda and really assign an agenda together, whether we're in the room or whether we're working remotely, and continue to work on it. And that's why it's called fluid, right? We can also, during the meeting, collaborate simultaneously on notes, assign tasks to each other. And also, after the meeting, there is meeting recap, which provides everything you need, which happened within the meeting. So it's okay not to attend the meeting, right? So, and we don't feel left out sometimes. And the new word is FOMO, right? We try to attend all the meetings as possible because we feel that we're going to get left out of some important conversation. So I think things like this really enable everyone to be rest assured that even if they don't attend a meeting, they can collaborate or they can catch up on the notes and the tasks post the meeting. And of course, there are features like recording, transcripts that we have released so that, at the end of the meeting, everything is summarized for you. And I used to hate taking notes after a customer meeting and putting minutes of the meeting and sending it out to the customer. And I think meeting recap is something which is really cool because it does it automatically. Technology enables you to kind of give the recap at the end of the meeting. And like Peter said, right, there are a lot of technology enhancements that we're working like device partners like Jabra in terms of intelligent speakers or AI-driven cameras, which really enable the experience for the users, whether they're in room or whether they're remote. And we've launched something called as intelligent speakers as well, which actually recognize the voice up to 10 participants within a room, and then when the transcript is running, it identifies who's speaking, right? Which is really cool, because sometimes when you're working across teams which are global and language or accent is a challenge, it really helps to go through the meeting. So, I mean, I can go on and on about the amazing cool features.
Any one or two features that recently have become really, people have started using it a lot that you can think of?
So I would say, of course, that raise hand is something that I love. I think that is something that initially people were shy of using, but I think more and more we are seeing that people are, stopping meetings. It's a cultural thing in India also, right? We, out of respect, we don't want to intervene within a meeting, and we feel that it is not okay. But because of raise hand, I've really seen that, and this is not within Microsoft. I'm sharing from outside organizations. When I attend meetings outside, I see this being used more and more, which is very cool, because it gives that inclusivity and gives that opportunity for a remote participant. And of course, my favorite are the emojis and the reactions. I can now see that when people are presenting, there are a lot of reactions and reciprocation to presentations, to chats, to everything, right? And I think that is something that is really helping us stay connected, even in these difficult times when we're all distributed.
Okay, now that's interesting. Yeah, what you said about transcribing minutes of the meeting, same. Yeah, I mean, we do these interviews, and then that transcribing is the most painful part. Yeah.
Peter, coming to you, how important is it to have synergies between devices and software platforms to increase productivity?
Yeah, Shilpa, so we were, let's look at this, right? When we do these meetings, any video meeting or even audio conferencing, how many times do we hear this ubiquitous, can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Audio is not clear, video is choppy, and so on. Can you repeat? So quite a considerable part of our meeting, at least at the start, and sometimes through, we hear these, which are very, very unproductive. While it is unproductive, sometimes this can also be dangerous, because there are people who may be shy, who may not want to say, can you please repeat? They possibly are understanding the instructions or what is being spoken about not correctly, and they may go ahead and do stuff which may cause a long-term issue. So essentially, productivity and effectiveness of the meeting are hit, and that's where the synergies help, right? For me, devices and software platforms almost have a conjugal relationship, yeah, if I may say. So, if there is no compatibility or if there is no sync, this just will not work. There will be issues, and productivity in case of an official thing, in an official context, will take a hit. Let me, give you an example. For instance, we did another survey on, wrong user survey, in the sense, if we identified how many knowledge workers use non-compatible devices for video conferencing. You won't believe, over 50 to 55% of knowledge workers. We are not even talking about, any user. Knowledge workers who are not using proper headsets, they're using laptop speakers and mics. Many people are using mobile phone headsets that comes free along with the mobile phone, right? And there are some who are using other consumer devices which are not compatible or certified for the platform. It was very interesting for us, right, to see that. For
So
instance,
what happens? The clarity, all of that gets affected,
yeah,
is it?
clarity will be a problem. It can affect your ears from a long-term perspective, from a video perspective, from an audio perspective. If it is a video, yeah, the video is not crystal clear. Yeah. So one of the reasons for doing videos be that immersive experience, your ability to connect, to kind of understand how you are reacting. Sometimes what words don't say, your facial expressions do. Right. So in a sales situation, for instance, you could have a customer, saying yes, but he's nodding in a different way, right? So it could happen. So I think it's very important. So you could have any issue related to how effective a meeting is, and an overall experience goes for a toss, right? And if you, for instance, if you look at Microsoft in their team certification, they talk about having this button, right? As I was talking about, that is quick to get into a meeting. The faster you get, you don't want to be struggling through figuring out which is your meeting that you want to do. one touch and you want to enter. Similarly, they have an open office certification besides team certification. That is very critical. Today, offices are no more multiple rooms for people. It's mostly, there are many organizations, global organizations, which have got rid of offices for even senior executives, right? Or it could have just one or two. So mostly people sit on the same floor and work. So there is noises, there are challenges related to that. And Microsoft has an open office team certification, which mandates what the device that goes with that requires. Now, of course, you're working from home, it doesn't come into play, but then you get back into a hybrid mode, that will come back into play. So we need to make sure that, this is why that synergy needs to exist. This is where that certification and compatibility needs to exist, right? For instance, you talk about from a consumer perspective, you would have seen Alexa enabled devices, right? If you have a consumer, it said you say Alexa, go to Amazon, for instance, right? It goes. So you need it to be an device which is platform enabled or synergistic with the platform. For example, you're also talking about, Alysha was talking about out of 10 speakers, you want one person who's speaking picked up, that is very critical, right? You don't want that voice to get lost. But then I can guarantee you that if you have a poor device, it will not be able to, or it may choose the wrong one, right? So it's very critical to enable. That's why it is very important that the platform, organization or vendor and the devices vendor are, in touch with each other very closely, get the share details and get the certification going, so that the user experience is important, because you always talk about meeting fatigues of, video fatigues. We got to try and get rid of all these murmurs so that people have a very good experience and the meeting is productive. And that's why this has to be a very synergistic relationship between the device and the software players,
Okay.
platform players.
There's this question which maybe Peter Blessing, you could take. This from Sonali Sarkar asking, what arrangements should employees make at home to increase productivity? I mean, just before this webinar started, little before that, a few minutes, some drilling started above. My God, I was so scared. Was this going to continue when the webinar is on? Yeah. Peter, so what arrangements? You have noise cancellation devices and all that.
So these devices and platforms, I'm presuming that your organization has provided you with the right platform, like a Teams, to help you engage, easy to use. So then you talk about having the right device, which has, if you're in an environment where it is noisy, and many of our homes are small and with a lot of people, we live with our parents. So you may want to have a device which is, noise cancellation enabled, so that it cuts out noises. Depending on your work style, you may want to have a wireless headset so that you can move around and do stuff, especially if you're somebody who takes care of home, and mostly both, irrespective of the gender, we do work at home, and there's nothing wrong because you're invading the home into an office environment. So you may want to look at something like that. Other than the technology that we use, things like ensuring the bandwidth is very critical, right? So please ensure it is worth spending time and money and choosing the right vendor and ensuring the right bandwidth. Hopefully your IT will support in getting you that. We spoke about power situation not being stable in India. So if you don't have a proper backup, it's worthwhile investing. These UPSs don't cost too much, but a half an hour, 1 hour backups are available at less than 5,000 rupees. So some of these are more to do with the organization, but now the organizations are happy to hear from you. So please ask for these and ensure that the devices and the infrastructure around, and don't forget the importance of having the right chair and table. You could break your back, literally break your back working from home if you don't have this right chair, the posture and everything. There are many YouTube videos available on how to even sit and work and stuff like that. Please work. And lastly, please take the breaks, take a walk, go into the sun, shut off, create personal times within your calendar, so that is a break that you get to go and have a coffee, to stretch out. And it's very important to stay refreshed.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. Blessing, do you also advise people on homes and all that?
We do. So, now there is a mix of hybrid model, right? We call it a split hybrid, mixed hybrid, and also personal hybrid. So most of the mixed and personal hybrid happens from work from remote or work from home, right? So as Peter rightly said, using the certified, the right devices, the choice of the devices is very important. The simple example that I can give you is, see, after the pandemic, when the remote working, substantially increased with corporate organizations, the most heard word were, hey, you are on mute, all right? The whole of the last year, right? Today, we are talking about, even before you got to tell me that, I'm on mute, I got to see my screen, which says, oh, you're on mute, right? So this talks about the synchronization of my device with the software, the hardware platform, and then the VC soft codec that I'm using. So obviously the choice of the device, using the certified products, using the right tools, is very, very essential to make your hybrid model a productive. And we have seen the organizations are putting a lot of focus into those now these days, because we've had situations where we, during the pandemic and even now for mixed, hybrid working models, we've been packaging elements, we've been, packaging devices and sending it to, last year we had a situation of packing of 7,000 packs of a hybrid unit and sending it to homes, for employees. And that included a VDA unit, a certified headphone, a certified camera, a certified, device for certain collaboration and stuff like that. So yeah, so these are my views. So obviously the choice of selection of equipments makes a very important role in terms of making it productive. Yes.
Okay. Shilpa?
Yeah, Alysha, coming to you, what do you think, the policy changes that companies need to make to bring in seamless hybrid working?
So I think I would share some of the best practices that we're following at Microsoft very quickly, so that we can collaborate more effectively and emerge as a stronger team. And again, coming to my point, Microsoft has embraced this new world of hybrid as a cultural shift, which is of course backed with powerful technologies platform to empower every person and organization. And as we're redefining the definition of hybrid, when we're returning to office, there are so many things that we need to unlearn and relearn, right? For example, expectation of being available online all the time, which is something, and something as obvious as buffering commute time, to even to navigate from one floor to the other within the same organization, which we've all forgotten to do. But at Microsoft, we're encouraged to kind of, like Peter said, use that Outlook feature, which helps you shorten the meeting time, so that instead of doing a 60-minute meeting, you do a 45-minute meeting more effectively, I would say, and use that 15 minutes to refocus on your next meeting, catch up on notes, or even go take a walk or a drink of water, right? And as travel begins, and as we're doing customer meetings and partner meetings, the expectation needs to be set internally, right? Because we've been available all the time, we need to set the expectation both internally and externally. So at Microsoft, we have we have external meeting days where it is given that we are either partner facing or customer facing. So it's okay not to respond to chats. It's okay not to respond to emails. It's expected that you're on the road, right? And also another really good thing that we're doing is we're doing no meeting Fridays, which means we spend Friday learning new skills, catching up on learning, which I think is very, very important, especially as technology is changing so rapidly, as we need to all develop new skill sets to adapt to this new way of work. I think it's very important that we keep enabling and skilling ourselves to stay updated. And I think, and I think just the last thing, which is always my favorite, learn to disconnect when you need to, because you have all the technology to help you and support you. So it's okay to disconnect and take care of your mental well-being.
That's very important.
That discipline is so important. Yeah, Shilpa? Or did we lose Shilpa?
Right. We had this question from, Sorry, we have this question from Pranita BS. I personally have never spent much on audio devices like headsets, speakers, etc. What would be your pitch to someone to change that mindset?
You want to be heard, and you want to be acknowledged by the right headset, and you know that's Jabra. So essentially, I know we take it for granted. Audio, you take it for granted, but please remember that you don't hear what the other person is hearing, right? So you assume what you're talking, you can hear. You don't know how the other person is receiving it. So if you can't communicate well, you would put yourself in peril. It depends on what situation you are in, right? From a personal situation to a professional situation. So that is important. And I would always say, if you're looking at children, for instance, safety is very important, and that's important for everybody. You don't want an audio device is, it makes you listen, right? But if it's not the right one, it can damage your ear, which can be permanent in nature. So please ensure, for our own personal need, in terms of safety, and more importantly, to be effective in whatever we are doing, I think we need to do the right headset or audio device.
Yeah, I think some of the younger folk are getting used to it. I can see my son using one of these big ones. He's into gaming and all that. So I hate putting those little things into earbuds into my ears. That I can't stand.
So you yourself, I agree that you're an older generation. The younger ones literally live with it.
Yeah. No, very true. So we are exactly at 6 o'clock now. So final words, Alysha, any last message to employees and companies?
I just have to say, embrace the change. It's a learning journey for all of us. Like Blessing said, trust the organization, trust the technology, trust the people, and we're in it together. So let's embrace this change and take care of ourselves, most importantly.
Take care of the change. Blessing?
Oh, it's a wonderful conversation, Sujit. Thank you for this. Organizations have to be a little more careful, sensitive in terms of planning their return to work, gradual policies within their organization. We as an integrator, follow a 3-factor program. We call it as RRT: respond, recover, and thrive. So responding to the, current situation with the policies around us, the interim hybrid transition reference programs that organizations are running, the corporates are merging with, the recovery, the emerging and stronger pitch with the new normal practices in accommodating the hybrid model. We form an advisory on their long-term hybrid workspace models and goals. Again, the last but not the least, thrive, preparing and shaping for the new next normal, which is an ongoing activity. So we've been running return to work pre-check camps, helping customers with a lot of technical expertise, specifically those large multinational conglomerates, enterprise organizations, for their technology refresh milestones, program managements on their hybrid migration plans, and legacy to hybrid corporate video integration. Complex infrastructure solutions have been provided by us, including advisory on safety standards, their virtual yogas, and their ARs, VRs, and stuff like that. So be safe, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Blessing. Yeah, prepare for the new next normal. Peter?
Thank you for the time and great interaction. I can only assure you that between all the technology vendors, you're adequately covered from a technology perspective. If you are an employer or if you're a team manager, please remember it is important to set the process also and policies so that it is very inclusive and it is fair to everybody, who's in a hybrid world. And if you are an employee, please remember to take care of, as Alysha said, your mental well-being is very important. Please remember the offices have invaded home and not the other way around. So it is okay for a kid to enter into your meeting. I'm sure your organization will be okay. Important to stay safe and enjoy the hybrid new normal.
Enjoy the hybrid new normal. Thanks so much, Peter, Alysha, Blessing. It was a great discussion and hope to have you again some other time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.